What's up, everyone? Prague here, and in light of the Game of Thrones show finishing pretty poorly, and I think kind of ruining a lot of the characters if they weren't already ruined, I thought I would make a video of my favorite characters in the books in A Song of Ice and Fire, and sort of the characters that I think are most interesting or that I most want to see where they're taken in Winds of Winter, um, hopefully soon. Hopefully that'll be coming out soon. So, starting off. 12th favorite character. The reason I made this a top 12 instead of a top 10, because I really wanted him in here, is going to be Thoros of Myr. And the reason Thoros of Myr is on here is he's like a pretty minor character, and this might come as a surprise to some people, but I just think he has one of the most far-reaching and most compelling arcs of any character in maybe the entire series. Because he goes from, being this drunkard, like good for nothing priest, like friend of Robert Baratheon, sort of charging into battle with his flaming sword with like no worries. Um, and then he later on, when you see him from Arya's perspective, with Beric, he's had sort of this resurgence of faith. He's super determined, to stand up for Ned, to stand up for the Brotherhood, and sort of do the will of R'hllor. So he's just like he's transitioned to like this really well put together guy. Um, and then at the point in the books where we are now, going into Winds, he's having like this existential crisis, right? Because he's having to do. He's R'hllor has willed Lady Stoneheart back to life, and she's making the Brotherhood do all this like morally gray stuff, right? And he doesn't know if what he's doing is right anymore. So I'm really interested to see what happens to Thoros. We're going to get some of him soon, I think, with Brienne taking Jaime back to Lady Stoneheart. Um, and yeah, I'm really excited. So moving on, number 11 here. This is definitely going to be a book only one, not for the show. Um, but it's going to be No One, Arya Stark. And the reason Arya is on number 11 on this list is not because she's a badass, right? It's not because, oh, she's this assassin person, she's gonna kill everyone, blah blah blah, she's gonna kill the Night King. Um, the reason Arya's on this list is I will concede that like she's a little bit of a tropey character at the beginning of the story, right? She's like the tomboy, the like I'm not a lady, like whatever, what have you. But I think like as George like took her from that point and into the story, into traveling with the Hound, into Harrenhal, into Bravos. There's a lot of complexity to Arya that you sort of miss in the show, I think, or you don't get enough of in the show, right? She's having like an identity crisis in the book. Like she is picking between being super vengeful and being an assassin and sort of losing her innocence and being a Stark. I know these aren't like mutually exclusive, but like she has all these different forces tugging on her in different directions, right? Um, like figuring out who she is and figuring out if she really does want to go down this path. And you really start to get that in some of the Winds sample chapters, which are Arya wouldn't be on this list if it weren't for those chapters. You get her sort of like coming of age. Like I usually don't like coming of age stuff. I think it's cheesy, but I really like the chapter where she kills Maren Trant. It is, I believe, where she like baits him out basically, and she basically has this realization like, oh hey, I'm a woman. I'm going to use that to bait out Maren Trant and make him look like an idiot, basically. That's like a truly badass moment, not like Arya killing the Night King and stuff. Like that's a badass moment. Um, and then you also have some like emotional complexity when she's sort of, I think this is happening in the books, she befriends the actress for Cersei in the play that she's supposed to be disguising in to carry out her faceless man work, and she sees that actress portraying Cersei as like 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 torn to pieces with Joffrey's death. And starts having like maybe like a little bit of conflict there. This is somebody that's on her list, and maybe she reminds that actress's portrayal of Cersei reminds her of Catelyn a little bit, maybe. So Again, really interested to see where Arya Stark goes. I'm really liking the emotional complexity that's being brought forth for her, and I hope that continues and wins. Moving on, we got number 10. It's gonna be none other than Eddard Stark. Um, and Ned, obviously, he's not going on anymore, but he's just such a plot-heavy character. Um, and you get some of the best lines in the entire series from him, right? Like, that's the only time a man can be brave. You think my life is some precious thing to me. Um, the man who he who passes the sentence to pass the sword. I'm not sure if that's the exact quote, but there's just so many things, and they reverberate through the story. You get the parallels with Rob, you get the parallels with John. He's just got so much, and really, people might disagree with me, but the series hinges around Ned in the beginning. Like so many things, so many characters, and so many people need Ned there. Need him to be that honorable person, and need him to influence the story in a really unique way. Um, and as we go on this list, I think Ned's gonna stand out here because I really like complex characters and I like character arcs and I like moral ambiguity. And Ned doesn't really have any of those things in large amounts, but he's just such a beast character. He's got so much great dialogue, and he's so plot heavy that he just needed to be here at number 10. Moving on, we got number 9. It's going to be none other than the priestess from Ashai, the Red Witch, Melisandre. And Melisandre obviously has the really cool, like, personal conflict of her visions, right? Where she feels that she isn't competent enough to sometimes feels that she's not, doing R'hllor's will. She feels that she might be misinterpreting these visions, right? And I'm sensing that we pretty soon, with Stannis' storyline reaching a climax, with Jon, dead and he's gonna need to be revived. I feel like, and Shireen, right? I feel like we're gonna get a lot of guilt from Melisandre and a lot of emotional conflict, and that's why I really hope the one POV chapter that we got is not the only one we get, because I really want to see Melisandre go like a very dark place, and have to pull herself out and have to redeem herself. Um, and then on top of that, you also got a lot of mysteries. I really like the random drop in her one POV chapter of Melanie Lot 7, just like out of nowhere, never explained. It adds a whole nother level of intrigue about Melisandre's past, not just about what she sees and what she can do, but about her past and her as a person instead of as this like sort of sorcerer figure. So again, really excited to see where Melisandre is taken in Winds of Winter. Coming in at number 8, again, this is definitely a book only choice. He would be nowhere near my top 12 for the show, but it's going to be the Crow's Eye, Euron Greyjoy, and this guy in the books is an absolute beast. He is he's scary as hell. He's literally going to summon Cthulhu in Winds of Winter. Um, and again, this is a little bit of a break, like Ned with my other characters, where I really like morally gray characters and I really like complex characters. Euron's not really complex, right? I mean, it's kind of mysterious what his motives are, what he knows, what he can do, blah blah blah. But he's pretty evil. Like if there was any character, I usually say that I think the most evil characters in A Song of Ice and Fire are Euron and Roose, and then maybe Ramsay. But I think that Ramsay might be a product of Roose. Um, if there was ever a character that I wanted that was going to be like a big bad uh, in A Song of Ice and Fire, it would be Euron. Um, I mean, the guy he cuts he makes his crew mute, calls the ship the Silence, paints the decks red so you can't see the blood, does blood sacrifices so his ships can move faster. He's got Valyrian steel armor, I think. He probably had an egg and traded it to the Faceless Men to kill Balon. Like this guy is just crazy. He's a psycho, and I love it. Moving on, number 7, we got the Spider, Master of Whispers, the perfumed Seneschal, probably, the Mummer, Varys, and Varys. I like that he's a schemer, and I like that he's morally gray, I think. Um, and I like that he has a lot of theories about him. But what puts Varys really on this list for me, right, instead of like Littlefinger, for example, is I think there's another side to Varys that a lot of people don't talk about, and that's that he's not, you know, he does a lot of evil stuff. He supports Aerys up until like the last second. He enables Cersei sometimes. He enables war sometimes. Um, he is sort of, if you want to go with the Blackfire theory, he's kind of jumping into this thing just to get something that he wants and not necessarily, as he always says, like to serve the realm and stuff. Um, and so I think if you take that and you consider some of the other stuff he does, right? He frees Tyrion. One of my favorite scenes in all of the books when he's in the dungeons talking to Ned, telling him to confess his crimes and take the black. That's not stuff that Varys needs to do, right? And so I think that Varys is actually very emotionally conflicted. We don't get much of it because he's not a POV character, and I don't think he should be. But he's like a super like conflicted character. I think he doesn't want Ned's death on his conscience. I think he doesn't want. I think he likes Tyrion. He doesn't want. Maybe you can say he's a Targ loyalist, and he just wants Tyrion to guide Daenerys. I don't think that's the case, but still, like he has friends. He has morals, I think, and he's really sort of torn with whatever he wants, like sort of reconciling uh, what he wants with his morals. Moving on, number six, top half, we got the book only character, the Iron Suitor, Victarion Greyjoy. And again, kind of the same thing as Euron here. He's just a beast, right? He's got a charred arm, he's got a priest of the drowned god and a priest of the red god on his ship. He destroys people, right? He's a beast with the axe. Um, but on top of that, I think what he has on Euron is he does have a little bit of moral complexity, right? He's not, he's definitely not a good guy, right? Like he's an Iron Islander, he's a pillager, he's brutal, he kills his wife just because Euron raped her, right? Um, he's twisted, right? I don't think he has a moral compass, sort of at all. But at the same time, Aeron's like, yeah, Victarion would be a way better king than Euron. Like Victarion, we can stabilize things. Um, and he, I don't know, man. He just like he's a very interesting character, and I don't know how George R. R. Martin does it, where he pulls this character seemingly out of nowhere, right? Um, and makes him really interesting, and I really want to know what happens to Victarion. Moving on, another book only character. It's going to be the princess in the tower, the queen maker, the fate of Dorne, Ariane Martell. And I was so sad that Ariane was not in the show, although I guess I'm happy now because they probably would have ruined her. But Ariane Martell, again, George takes this character seemingly out of nowhere, creates this super cool Dorne master plan, plot twist where she was going to be married off to Viserys, sort of a plot line conjured up out of nowhere. And in addition, adds extreme, I don't think people talk enough about this. Same with Varys. Extreme emotional conflict for Ariane Martell and complexity. Complexity, she's got this sort of jealousy thing going on with Quentin. But moral ambiguity, or emotional conflict, she is torn over what she feels is her fault of Eris, charging in and basically inting into either Darkstar or Area Hota, I don't remember. But yeah, Eris basically ints, right? He suicides for her, and she feels super guilty about that, and she feels super guilty about Marcella getting her ear chopped at. And already this very new character is super super emotionally conflicted and already on her way back to redemption. Fate of Dorne goes with you, daughter. She feels like she owes Doran something, and she owes herself something. She owes Eris. She owes Marcella. She feels like she needs to redeem herself, and I really hope that we get more of Ariane going on, and she could go anywhere, and I'm ready to go there with her. Coming in at number four, I have to preface that with main characters or characters in media that are obviously supposed to be your favorite character, I'm usually skeptical, right? I mean, these are characters like Leona Mormont in the show where they just give them like a bunch of badass stuff, but they don't really make them interesting. Um, but in A Song of Ice and Fire, that's not the case. The character that George wants you, in my opinion, that George wants to be your favorite character is a good character, right? He's a great character, and it's going to be the imp, Tyrion Lannister. This is as low as I could put him on this list. Um, I have a big issue with characters that are really wise and funny, like very likable, almost perfect characters that, their flaw is not really a flaw in my opinion. So like for example, if Tyrion was just a really wise, funny guy and his flaw was just that he was a dwarf and he was mistreated because he was a dwarf, I would not like Tyrion. But the thing is that he that's not Tyrion, right? He has a lot of flaws and he has a lot of emotional conflict. You talk about Tysha, you talk about Tywin hating him for no reason, not necessarily because he's a dwarf, right? But because he, you know, quote unquote killed Joanna. Um, and you got all this, I can go on and on about Tyrion. I don't really need to justify this to anyone that's read the books. He's just a great character. I really want to see where he goes with Penny and with Daenerys, how he judges Daenerys. Um, and honestly, the endgame stuff, with Jaime and Cersei, and sort of reconciling all those arcs and relationships. Moving on to number three, this was a very difficult choice between number three and two, uh, but I ended up going with none other than the Hound, Gravedigger, Sandor Clegane. And again, not much I need to justify here, right? Just an amazing arc, a lot of cool things about Sandor, like the mysteries with his sister and Gregor and his dad and Gregor, and the toy knight and him always saying, "I'm not a knight." The unkiss, right? His relationship with Sansa, his relationship with Arya, the whole Gravedigger thing. There are some people I think that think Sandor's done in A Song of Ice and Fire, that he's going to end the Gravedigger. He's not going to do much more. I hope that's not the case, right? I don't want him to come back into Clegane Bowl or anything like that, but I want, closure on the relationship with Sansa and closure on his arc, right? I want him to end up having something to fight for, um, and, you know, an explicit statement of, I don't need vengeance anymore. I'm not the Hound. I give up that identity, and I sort of atone for what I did as Joffrey's dog, so to speak. But yeah, let's see more of Sandor in Wins. Moving on to number two, I ended up picking him over Sandor, and it's gonna be the Kingslayer, Jaime Lannister. Again, amazing arc, amazing relationship with Brienne, and sort of all the visions he had. That vision he has, where he's like that. All the Jaime's Azor Ahai advocates like to point out, where he's like in the flames, and he sees all these like voices like sort of berating him, and he calls out for Brienne, and the whole conversation with Brienne, where you get this reveal that, wait a second, Jaime actually like did something heroic, maybe when he killed the heiress, and you get really unique relationships with Tyrion, again with Brienne, with oath keeping, really a thematic connotation with oaths, um, and the chopping off of the hand, just everything, and starts trying to be more honorable when he parleys with the Blackfish or Edmure or whoever at Riverrun. Um, and again, I want to see where he's taken, right? I mean, this is could be the Valonqar. This could be some crazy endgame stuff. Um, and I'm really excited. Let's see more of Jaime. And at number one, if you haven't guessed yet, I seriously doubt your inference skills, because I've talked about the moral ambiguity. I've talked about the complexity. It's pretty obvious here. It's going to be at number one spot, the one true king, the king of the Andals and the first men, uh, the God, it's Stannis Baratheon, right? It's Stannis Baratheon. What can I say? What can I say? Stannis the Manus with the Planus. Um, I understand that he's probably gonna die in the books. Um, but you know what? I'm okay with that because I want him to win the fight at the Crofters Village and do some crazy genius stuff, maybe fake his own death to take Winterfell. Maybe he dies in the process. Maybe shortly after he takes Winterfell, he dies. I don't know, some other way. I don't know. But Stannis is just such a complex character, right? The one I've been stuck on recently is the line from Robert where he says, "I never loved my brothers. It's a sad thing to say, but it's true. I chose you, Ned." Uh, and then you get the line from the when Davos is asking him about Renly, I think, uh, where he says, "I love my brothers, Davos." Uh, and you really get this revealing thing about like Stannis is all duty, but he's so torn between Renly being more charismatic and wanting to challenge Stannis for the throne, and Robert seemingly slighting him by giving him Dragonstone, and you got the bird story. I forget what Proudwing or something. Um, God, the Peach. Him being torn between Melisandre and Davos, not truly believing in the Red God, but thinking that it'll help him do his duty, and what's the life of one bastard boy to a kingdom? Everything, my lords. Like, there's just so much great stuff with Stannis, and you don't even get his POV. And God, he's just whew. Stannis the Manus with the Planus, guys, the ultimate character. Uh, but again, he's I can talk about how great Stannis is all I want. Look at all the characters on the list. They're amazing. I think Song of Ice and Fire is the series of our generation. Please finish it, George. Um, these books are amazing. There are other amazing books, but I love these books. And I'm going to reread them, probably reread them many times, um, but definitely reread them coming up to wins. Uh, yeah, that's going to be it, guys. Tell me who you think should have been on this list, who you think shouldn't have, if you think Stannis is the one true king. Um, yeah, comment below uh, and enjoy. Or I hope you enjoyed, I guess. And I'll see you in the next one.